to the VET S.O.S podcast. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. VET S.O.S is brought to you by the Who You Know Network and proud member of the Parade Deck community. Today, we're sitting down with Carroll Harris to learn about a program he has been working on with the post office, as well as some of the other things he has his hands in. This is going to be an interesting, a very interesting program that really is going to have a huge impact on our community. So I'm looking forward to jumping into this. As always, I'm here with Keith. Keith, how you doing today?
Great to be here, living the dream as always, brother. How about you?
It's somebody's dream.
Nightmares are dreams
some may
too.
call it a nightmare at times too.
Oh,
I don't know.
Those are dreams too.
But it's all good. Like we've talked about already. We're above ground. We get to sit down and talk to some great people.
Yep.
I mean, you can't complain, right?
Exactly.
So let's jump right into this. We got Inspector Harris, who has over 33 years of government service with 18 years as a federal agent. He joined the United States Marine Corps in 1990, where he served over 10 years of active duty and 20 years in the reserves to include mobilizations and overseas deployments. Inspector Harris serves as a federal agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration from 2004 to 2008. In 2008, he answered the call to become a postal inspector. He worked multiple assignments to include identity theft, mail theft, narcotics, and workplace violence. In 2021, he was named inspector in charge of the Los Angeles division, where he managed an authorized complement of 162 inspectors, postal police officers, and professional, technical, and administrative staff. Inspector Harris holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Old Dominion University, a Master of Business Administration degree from Butler University, and a Master of Operations Science degree from the Marine Corps University Command and Staff College.
Sorry. What? I'm actually, my son's a monarch. I'm not, but yeah, my son's a monarch.
Reading through that, it got me thinking, honestly. I have not heard the term going postal in a long time. And reading your bio, I realized that the post office has made a conscious effort to really look into workplace violence and things like that. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion I'm sure we could have. Carol, how are you doing today?
I'm so good it hurts, as you said earlier. Any day above ground's a good day, and we're doing nothing but winning. I can't help it. Air in my lungs. I'm talking to a monarch. There's not a lot of us, so very happy about that. An interesting side fact in our organization. This is very unique. Right now, I spent the past 8 months as a deputy chief. There are literally the chief of our organization is a monarch, and here deputy chiefs is a monarch, and I'm a monarch. So
nice.
Go monarch.
Small world.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely interesting. Let's start before we jump into this program. And the program's name is Operation Protect Veterans Campaign, correct? So before we jump into that, though, let's talk a little bit about your transition. Tell us how that transition out of the Marine Corps went.
Sure. Like many, I did not do the full active career. I have about a little bit over 10 years of active time interspersed in a 30-year career as a Marine Corps reservist. So I did transition out after a couple of tours. And when I got out, I knew I wanted to be a federal agent, as you shared earlier. I left and I worked for the Veterans Administration while I went to school. So I became a veteran service rep, which I'm really grateful that I was able to do that. I lived in the Midwest. My wife is from the Midwest. And I spent years working the phones, helping veterans find placement, helping them get their benefits and navigate everything that, and the VA is evolving. It's been 25 plus years. It's been a while. So that was a very impactful transition, one that I still carry positive reflections and memories from having done that transition. I went to Butler University and I worked at the Veterans Administration, and eventually I became a federal agent with the DEA and then the postal inspectors. But when I was thinking about visiting with y'all today, I went and I grabbed something that I got from a Navy chief when I left and I transitioned. I became buddies with a Navy chief. His name is Bill Young, and he started at the Veterans Administration. He was transitioning from being a chief down in Norfolk. He was supporting the SEAL teams down there. So he and I are in the Midwest together, and we both transition and we become veteran service reps together. And he gave me this. This is over 20 years ago. He gave me this when I finished grad school and left the VA to become a DEA agent. And he put a note on here, and I've carried this all over the world. This is the speech that Theodore Roosevelt used to do when he would run around the world and promote Americanism. This is Man in the Arena speech, which I'm sure you guys have probably heard of. The credit goes not to the critic, but to the man in the arena is the quick summary of it. So Bill did that. He printed it, he signed it, and he said, Carroll, I think Teddy was thinking of you as you go through your transition. And it meant so much to me. I've carried this. So
that's awesome.
I'd share that with you. I'm still in touch with Chief Young, who hasn't been a chief for over 20 years, but he's a great man. He's been serving veterans ever since. So I just thought I'd share that.
That's fantastic. And always love those personal touches that people can do, because anybody can, say thank you or hello or goodbye, but those little personal touches I think make a world of difference. And no matter how small, and that's fantastic, especially tying it back to someone like Teddy Roosevelt, who's just an amazing leader for this country. All right, so Operation Protect Veterans Campaign. Never heard of this before you and I talked. Tell me about it. Tell us about it. Tell us what we're trying to do here.
So a lot of people don't know this. I'm full of all sorts of wonderful Postal Service information because I've been with the Postal Service for a long time now. They started a campaign up, and this was the original flyer that came with it, and this was put in all of our facilities. The Postal Service has over 600,000 employees. You think about that. Over 161 million delivery points, and that keeps growing every year, and over 30,000 facilities. Anything that's going on in the country that you can think of, the Postal Service is either headed into it, just left it, or they're in it at the moment. Like anything that you see on the news. But when you think about how vast the network is and that we're scouring the country every day, and a good hunk of all these people in all these places are veterans. The Postal Service is one of the top employers of veterans in the nation. One, it's just a huge organization. But two, many veterans, when they leave, just like when Bill and I went over to the Veterans Administration, a bunch of them come to the Postal Service. And I eventually came to the Postal Service. It's something that matters. It helps America. It takes people their medicine. It takes people the gift for their grandchild. It takes people food during the pandemic. It was incredibly valuable. People hunkered down and the letter carriers went out and took everybody's stuff and exposed themselves and took great risk. So it's a valuable thing. And having been part of it and knowing the number of veterans we have and seeing what happens to veterans and how veterans are targeted, we felt a calling within the Postal Service to run a campaign. So that's how we came to create this campaign, Operation Protect Veterans. And we started this up, I think it was 7 years ago. It's been in motion for a while. I've been very grateful to be one of the lead advocates and speaking to it around the nation. With my 30 years in the Marine Corps, it's just a natural thing for me to share. It does break down barriers when people speak with another veteran. I'm immediately comfortable when I'm with other veterans. It's just a bond. So when I say that, the scammers have also realized it. So studies have shown that the scammers know that when the veterans are together, that they can use what we call the affinity, the bond that veterans have, as a tool in their tactics to create scams. Because we're comfortable with each other, and they use that to manipulate the veterans. So with our campaign, we have warned the veterans about the specific scams that are tailored to them, because a lot of it ties to these benefits that Chief Young and I used to help people get access to that still matter today. There's a lot of benefits that can be manipulated. So wherever there's money and assets, scammers go. And if they can use the veterans' affinity to break down the barriers, that's what they're going to do. So that's a quick summary of it. Hopefully that helps. I could break down some scams for you if you want to hear a couple of specifics. I'd be happy to throw them out.
Well, I think definitely we need to get into some of the specific scams. But before we do that, um, Keith, have you had? I mean, to me, I always think about the young private, going to get the used car at the car lot and coming home with a 30% interest loan, and
Right?
because they didn't learn, and they didn't trust their seniors to help them facilitate that process or what have you. So, I mean, now that you've been out a while, have you seen anything with scams that you've had to deal with, Keith?
I'm not related to veterans. No, I mean, I've been, the typical other types of scams, car warranties, all that kind of stuff, but that everybody gets hit with. But no, I'm actually intrigued to hear that there are veterans getting scammed. I mean, my father's a veteran as well, and he's up in age, and he's still got his wits about him. I don't think he'd fall for anything yet, but I mean, you'd almost think, you combine the elderly who tend to be more susceptible to these types of attacks, and you couple them as veterans and the benefits that they might be receiving. I am very intrigued to at least hear a couple, Carol, if we could, just maybe the two or three biggest ones that are out there right now that are targeting veterans.
Sure, happy to share. So one of the things that it connects to the veteran community. It doesn't, and they do solicit from veterans, but it applies to everyone. So a lot of these things apply to everyone. They just might have a veteran twist, and there's a non-veteran twist version, and that would be a fake veterans charity scam, which really gets in my crawl, right? Because I am associated with numerous veteran support organizations because it's a heartfelt calling for me. It's natural. Love and care about those who love and care for the country enough to put themselves in harm's way, whether it's a first responder community, the special agents, the postal inspectors, or the veterans. I can't help but love them. And I want to do good by them, especially if they've been targeted and unjustly treated. So, with that said, the fake veteran charities, they pretend to be a charity that's going to support someone, and they target veterans or they target the elderly, and they solicit, and then they just take the funds and use them for illicit purposes that have nothing to do with the charity. It's really easy to get by with. So a couple of quick tactics that I want to share for our listeners are that you can check about what is a legitimate charity. There are numerous sites that you can check, third parties you can check. So I encourage people to do that. That could be Charity Navigator. That could be what we would call a battle buddy, right? So if I need, if oftentimes what they do with the scams and schemes is they apply time pressure to you to try to get you to act quickly. So feel that time pressure. What you need to do is you need to check with a battle buddy, a trusted resource. I would call another monarch. I could call Keith. I would call Keith before I would call Sean because Keith's a monarch and a veteran. So that is a
For
thing.
Sean.
The other phrase I'll give you that ties to the scams and the schemes would be something I love to share because it's easy for people to get. It's a 3-step process. When you get that time pressure, because the scams and schemes are often involve a time pressure. You got to act now. You got to do something now. And that is 1, to pause, 2, breathe, 3, connect. Pause, breathe, connect. Someone's going to come at you. They're going to apply the pressure. You're going to feel it. You're, as my young son would say, you're going to feel your spidey senses are going to tell you this ain't right. You got to pause. You got to take a breath. You got to connect with that battle buddy, connect with that monarch. Maybe even you might have to connect with Sean. But either way, you connect with somebody. That's one example. I've got a couple others I could run through, but did y'all connect before?
But that was always my favorite part of the CFC campaign was the book they gave you with all the information on the charities. You could actually see, the percentages that was really going to the cause and things like that. So through the campaign, do you guys provide, do you have a website where veterans can go to? Are there different resources that you recommend through the website, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. And thank you for that prompt. We have, and I am proud of the website because years ago I helped develop the latest version of it. USPIS.gov. USPIS.gov stands for United States Postal Inspection Service.gov /veterans for Operation Protect Veterans campaign. There you will find a list of videos and warnings that will explicitly outline the things that are happening to veterans and how you can be targeted. And we have not only English, but we have Spanish versions of many of the things that are there. So if you look at that, if someone will read that, they're going to be forewarned. And we believe forewarned is forearmed in the fight against fraud. And then once they've done that, and this resonates with the veteran community, once you're forewarned, if they're here and they're taking in this message, they're in the fight. That means they can help someone to their left or their right. There's someone they love and they care about that's being targeted right now that could use this message. They need to be told, hey, check with your battle buddy, pause, breathe, connect, don't fall for the time pressure. Someone's going to ask you to give money that's supposed to go to a veteran. It's not going to a veteran. You have to know how to check that resource. Or they could run through any of the other 50 variations of vet specific scams. Another one that I think I need to share with you guys there's a bunch of them, but the VA loan scams. There's a lot of predatory loans where there's high interest rates that people don't have to pay, or they charge them fees for access to loans. That's a bad one. I get those letters myself, and I'm the lead agent in charge of fraud in Southern California for the postal inspectors, and they're sending me letters like crazy. I'm on every bad fraud list there is out there. So that's happening in the veteran community. I know lots of people that get those. There are people that will approach veterans and charge them for the right to update their file. That just gets in my crawl as well. They don't know any better. Now imagine this: you're a young vet, or maybe you're an older vet who's just now reaching out for care for the first time from the VA, because that's their case. And you're not smart about fraud, scams, and schemes. You're susceptible to this. You may end up paying thousands of dollars to someone to get something you could get for free. That's happening in the veteran community. Or imagine you're a young service member who doesn't have, I'm in my 50s, so I've got a little life under my belt and experience. Some of it's hard knocks. But with that, I'm less susceptible in some ways because I've experienced nefarious activity and been exposed to it. But if you're a young service member with TBI, or you've been through something traumatic, you don't have that experience as a frame of reference. And if you don't reach out to your battle buddy, if you don't pause, breathe, and connect, they might be able to get something out of you and take advantage of you. If you're injured and you're trying to navigate what can be complex, the administrative process of the VA, which is full of a heavy burden of administrative kimchi is what I like to call it. You got to wade through that. If you don't have a good battle buddy and you don't have that life experience, you're in a tough spot. The VA is full of good people that want to help you. I was one of them, but it's not easy to navigate. You need help. If the scammer gets in there, instead of the right person, it can hurt you. So that's my call to action. Be humble, get a battle buddy, reach out, don't fall for the time pressure. And you don't have to pay for the right to get access to your VA benefits. That's happening to our vets.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. Well, first of all, I think I recently heard a study or about a study that shows that, we always think the elderly when we think of these scams, but statistics are showing that it is the Generation Zs and the younger folks that are more often falling victim to these scams than the elderly folks. So, and with that said, it makes sense. These young troops are getting out. Transition is stressful. They don't know where to turn. They don't know what's out there because our tagline is "Don't drown in the sea of transition." Right? It's the sea of goodwill. It seems like everybody's out there to try to help. Not all of them necessarily are. So I can see, some of these scammers getting their hands on some of these younger people who are they're already pressured, right, to just transition and find a new job and do all that. And then somebody slips in behind the scenes and is like, oh yeah, we'll help you. And next thing you know, they're taking money and all that kind of stuff. I had a question in there, and I'm old, and it just left me.
You're young. You're young.
I know, right? So because you also mentioned PTSD, things like that. So I mean, does the campaign kind of get involved at all as well with service members that have experienced PTSD or those types of, or even the older service members like in AARP? Is there any partnerships that the program works with, or is this solely within the postal community?
Well, so the campaign is it's basically like a pointer index. We make you aware so that you can go to an appropriate resource. As I mentioned, Better Business Bureau, Cherry Navigator. So we're not doing the treatment or things like
Gotcha.
that. Now, on my personal journey, I've been exposed to it, and I have spoke on in numerous venues to talk about the campaign, and I will share because I've been exposed to Boulder Crest Foundation. It's helping first responders, agents, law enforcement, and veterans. Merging Vets and Players is another favorite of mine. If you haven't heard of or interviewed anyone about that, absolutely fantastic organization that's helping professional athletes, collegiate athletes, and the veteran community as they're navigating. Because when people have the post traumatic stress, they need help. They need a good resource, and there's a lot of good resources out there, but you got to know where to get. And it is overwhelming to find them. And a lot of people just suffer in silence. They walk amongst us, and they're not getting what they need, and they're not
Yeah.
living as fully as they can. So, as long as there's air in my lungs, I'm going to encourage and point to these resources and try to support them to the best of my ability. And be vulnerable myself. I'm a human. I need help just like anyone. And
Yeah.
by doing that, I think I'm shining a light on a path where maybe some others I can. I want to be a battle buddy for
Yeah.
people out there.
But keep voicing it because your passion comes through when you talk about it. That's for sure.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's we need passionate people out there, beating the drum, and
Yeah.
that's wonderful that you're doing it. I don't know if this is tracked or if you know this off the top of your head, but I'm just curious about the statistics as it pertains to veterans falling for these scams because we typically tend to be not a really trusting bunch to begin with.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious, like, what do the statistics look like when it comes to the scams? Because I've seen stuff and heard stuff about the elderly. Keith just alluded to studies of younger generations, but as a whole, are there any statistics that you use for the veteran community?
So there are statistics the Federal Trade Commission has tracked, as well as our team has tracked. I do not have the printout in front of me of the latest, but I can give you some anecdotal that I've seen over the years. So when we first started the campaign, statistics, and we partnered with AARP back then when we first started, we realized that veterans, that what we were seeing through surveys were about 40. This number blew me away. They were about 40% more susceptible to the scams and schemes in the general population. And that is through the affinity, the breakdown. You tell me you're a Marine, you pass me some crowns, we start eating together, I'm comfortable with you. And then you can manipulate me, right? I love the flavor purple. Purple's my favorite flavor. If you feed me purple crowns, you got me. Next thing you know, you're in my wallet. So, and for the non-Marines out there, I really don't eat crowns, but you know the deal. So that that is being looked at, and I was surprised when I first heard about it because I feel the same way you do, Sean. Talk about a cynical, hardened group. But if you break them down, it actually works, and the scammers know it. And some of the scammers pretend to be veterans. Some of them are veterans. The veteran community
Yeah.
is human and flawed. Some of them leave, and then they use what they've gained through their service for a nefarious purpose. They're humans, and there's millions of them. So there's that. It's easy to manipulate.
My my favorite, it's still my favorite. Makes me laugh, especially now that I'm a veteran. Uh, Advertising line of all time is still military grade. Like every, every time
What does that
something
mean?
is advertised as that, I start laughing. And I actually said that once to a boss of mine because he was all excited about something. I'm like, you get excited about military grade stuff, don't you?
He doesn't know what that means.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
so so how do folks, I mean, the resources you're putting out there is yeah, vital. I love what we're learning about today. Is there like a, I don't know, like a hotline, a tip line? If somebody comes across this scam, are you folks able to receive updates and tips and stuff like that? And how do people go about doing that?
Yeah, there's multiple agencies that will work on things like this. Some of it could be a local matter, some of it could be a federal matter. Anything that relates to the Postal Service, our employees, our network, the mail, and oftentimes it does,
Yeah.
which people don't realize that. But I just spent a good portion of my life working scams that relate to the mail. It blows your mind if you pause and you think about it. But there are ways to report. USPIS.gov is one. The Federal Trade Commission takes reports. AARP takes reports. One of the wonderful things about AARP is they have people that have been victimized by fraud that work their fraud hotlines, and so they're very empathetic and they can help you walk the walk on the recovery, especially if you've lost assets. One of the things we do with the postal inspectors is we want to find the criminals, give them a consequence, arrest them, and we want to get the assets back to the victims. A lot of times the assets are gone though. So a lot of times they just, there's nothing left to get. But when we can, we do that. So USPIS.gov. We also have an 800 number, 877-876-2455. They can call and report there. But the best thing is the forewarned is forearmed. Get smart.
Yeah.
Don't be a victim. Pause, breathe, connect, and then go fight for the person to your left and your right. One of the things we've learned through the studies, and this is law enforcement in general, is people don't like to be told they're being targeted or they're potential victims. They don't like it. They think it's everybody but me. I'd never fall for it, or I'll never be a victim. But if you tell those same people you can protect someone else and encourage them to get smart about what exists so that they can watch out for their grandparent or maybe their buddy who's struggling with post-traumatic stress or going through a transition, or someone who's susceptible for any other major life event, a loss in the family, an injury, you name all the things that can happen to us. If you tell them they can be a protector and to get educated and smart and then to go out and serve, that works well. People like that. And of course, to be a protector, you got to be smart about it, which means you're protecting yourself. We've heard the thing about the airplane. You put your own oxygen mask on first. It's that type of thing. So I hope that helps. We get a lot of reports that come into us, and obviously we can't take action on everything, right? But that USPS.gov website is rich with information. It's very good. The FTC website they're incredibly good partners, rich with scam information beyond our Operation Protect Veterans. Great resources there. And Sean, you mentioned the Combined Federal Campaign. We've supported that. I was the lead 1 year. They take turns having different executives lead the campaign. I had the privilege to lead it 1 year, and I really do believe that book is thick with hundreds and hundreds of places people can go, and it's reputable, so you can see how much money actually makes it to the cause, and you know that at least it's had some sort of vetting if they're on there. So that's another space where people can go and see on a sanctioned website. The VA keeps list of charitable organizations and organizations that support veterans that are reputable. So there's lots of places to check.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Well, unfortunately, Carol, we are at time. This has been an amazingly informational episode. I love everything I've been hearing. I had no idea, that any of this stuff existed. So to all our listeners, please, go educate yourselves. If nothing else, to go help a battle buddy or help a relative or whoever else might be coming to this. In fact, I'd like to connect with you on a different level, because I don't know if you've heard of who I work for. My agency is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Oh, yeah.
We're kind of involved in a lot of this network cyber stuff, and that's a little. So anyway, I need to connect offline and talk about some interagency cooperation there. But anyway, no, absolute pleasure having you on the show, Carol. So for folks that might be interested in maybe supporting or getting more information, how can folks get in touch with you?
All right. We have, if they want to look at all the scams and schemes, USPIS.gov/veterans. That's the best place to go. Our 800 number's on there. It's easy to remember. And I genuinely mean it. I'm out there public facing on LinkedIn. I help people all the time. I answer dozens of inquiries there and point people to the things that we can't get into everything on. And I also like the Buffalo Bills. I see that thing there behind. I can't help it.
Oh my
goodness gracious.
Go Bills on top of that. Love it.
I should have just logged off from the beginning.
I met Bruce Smith one time. I was wearing his jersey,
too.
78, and I met him.
That's his autograph right there.
So I grew up
Like,
Virginia. My sister was at Tech the same time he
oh,
was at Tech. Nice guy.
okay. Yeah, I live in Virginia Beach now. So, yeah,
Oh,
from upstate. Yeah, from upstate New York originally, but yeah, retired out of the army and reside in Virginia Beach. So,
so Bruce was from Norfolk.
yep.
I was in Buffalo. I watched him play. My sister and I are flying back to Norfolk, and the plane was half empty. And he saw me wearing his jersey in line to get on the
Uh
same
huh.
plane, and he walked up to me and just said hello. I
He's the
was reading about
nicest
him in
guy.
the paper. We had newspapers back then, and I look
Yeah.
over. And I can't believe Bruce Smith just
Yeah.
walked up to talk to me. He sat and
Yep.
coached with us and talked to us all the way home.
Wow.
Nice guy.
That's awesome. Yeah, super nice guy. All right, Carol, it's been absolutely amazing to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all the information. It was an absolute pleasure. And on behalf of the entire VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Please make sure you tune in next week, which will actually be our 3-year anniversary episode. So a lot of good, big stuff happened going on there. And as you can see, VET S.O.S is growing and spreading its wings. You can follow us on all the social media platforms. Please make sure to check out all 3 of our shows and to follow and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast from. We're on YouTube, Reese Cross America Radio, The Parade Deck, and all your favorite podcast platforms. And as always, remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Life.